my goodness. Right. That tough
Ooh.
love.
Well, welcome to another episode of The Real on Parenting. I am your co-host, Coach Kiana Shaw, and my girl.
Therapist Danielle.
What is with the delay? Like,
Oh, was I delayed or was it my brain? Because I think it was my brain this time and not the actual technology. It may have been me. It may have been me. My apologies. My apologies.
oh my goodness. All right, let's get to it because this one is a doozy. And it's spun off of the two previous episodes. And the reason why this is important is because we really gave from the child's perspective. And
Yes.
now we want to talk about the adult perspective, the custodial parent perspective. Did I say that right? Because I feel like I butchered that. Okay. Because we just never know. All right. So we're talking about still dealing with the challenges of being the emotional support and financial support, all these things, right? Being a custodial parent. And so when we had talked about in the previous episode about what was the topic? Now I'm drawing a complete blank, and that's not okay.
Right. Don't ask me, but no, it was
child abandonment. Child abandonment.
Yes, there you go. Child abandonment, but from the view of the child, from the child's perspective, where one of the parents, mom or dad, has left, or the relationship or the household, or the parent is just not active in the child's life. So that was that the reason, hence the reason for the title, but from the child's perspective. So today's show is Lone, but Not Alone. And this is related to the parent that had no option to leave or go. Not to say they was gonna leave, but the custodial parent. No, the single parenting and the custodial parent who is now single parenting. So we wanted to provide that perspective as well.
Very good. Very good. So we're going to kick it off with like talking about the emotional toll, because we kind of talked about this a lot in the last episode, but just how emotional it is for the custodial parent when they're doing their best, right? The best they know how to do. So let me qualify that statement. The best they know how to do. And it's not enough, right? There's this emotional toll that they are constantly dealing with, because they're just emotional, because their child is emotional, because they are overwhelmed. Like it's all these things, right? And that overwhelming emotional burden, of being the sole provider and caretaker
of everything
is enough to just kick anybody into a mental health crisis or a physical health crisis, for that matter, because there are a lot of people who have strokes and heart attacks because they are just stressed the hell out. And so let's talk about that a bit. Like how when you're a single parent and you are overwhelmed, right? And you let me rephrase this, because you can also be a single person, but you're the custodial parent. And so you're taking on 90%, 80% of what is going on with our children. And so that in itself is an emotional toll.
Right. So there's many perspectives, or many aspects, I guess you would say, not perspective, many aspects that can be and should be taken into account. But obviously for that person, for that parent, all of it is being experienced. So first and foremost, let's speak to the aspect of that parent's feelings towards the relationship in itself. It may have been the ending of a relationship. So when you do not have an option and you're given the responsibility to take care of the kids, we can say as parents, we barely have time to care for ourselves, just with both parents, so imagining when it's just you, it's like, when am I supposed to tend to what I'm feeling, how I'm feeling, when I know I need help, when I know I need to talk to
Yeah.
someone, when I know I need a break, when I know I need a vacation, I need the pause
Because we
button.
will put ourselves on the back burner and we'll look up
Right.
and it's been a whole year. And I'm gonna give you a good example of that. I have been having chest pains for almost a week at the time of this event. And Kayla, the day before, had been having really bad back pains, right? The day before the day I'm talking about. So she had been having really bad back pains. Like the dog had jumped on the bed. The dog is like 10 pounds, but just him walking on her, like she was in tears. She was just like,
Mm,
it hurts. Everything hurts. So I was like, okay. Um, I'm like, all right, we're gonna go to the doctor, but it can't be right this minute because I could not take her that day. So the next day, I'm like, okay, I'm going to go to work. I will leave early. I'll be back. Like, I was teaching on behalf of one of my contractors who called out because otherwise I would have took her
mhm.
that morning. Can't do
Right,
that.
right,
So
right, right.
I go, I teach the class. I'm on my way back and my chest is hurting so bad. And I got
Mm,
scared and I said, I'm going to pull off the
yeah,
freeway and
yeah,
have 911 come get me because I think I'm having a heart attack and I'm trying to be safe and all these things. So I'm like being responsible. Let me
right.
pull off the freeway. As I'm pulling off, Kayla calls me and I said to myself, this could be the last time I hear my baby's voice. So I
Mm,
answer the phone as chipper as I can. Hey, baby. And she's like, Mom, my back is still hurting really bad. And grandma wanted me, and now my arms are hurting. Grandma said my arm is swollen and it's warm to touch. And I said, I'll be right there as fast as I can. Give me about 30 minutes.
mhm.
I literally hung up the phone and I said to myself, this heart attack is going to have to wait because Kayla needs me. There was no other option. You understand what I'm
Right.
saying? My mom
Yeah.
had to get back because my bonus dad was having his own not emotional, but his own physical health
Let's
issues.
go.
So
Mhm,
she was
mhm.
like, okay, I can go get her and bring, like, you know what I mean? But it was like, okay, what time?
Right.
Like she was already pressed. And so
Mhm,
here I
mhm,
am trying to not be a burden on my mom. I don't
mhm.
have anyone else in the immediate area that could get to her. And
Right.
I'm just like, I gotta take the hit in the sense I have something to do. I gotta go tend to my kid.
Yeah.
That is something that her father has never had to deal with. I have had to deal with it on one level or another
Mhm. Yeah.
all the time, like several times a year. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And that alone, that put myself on the back burner. And when we got to the hospital, I checked her in and then I said, can I check into? And the lady said, what's wrong? I said, I think I'm having a heart attack. And she was like, what? And like she went, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? And I'm
Right.
like, but I gotta take my baby with me. And I like it didn't even
Right.
dawn on me, like, tell mom that I may need her like nothing.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
in the ER checking her in. And I'm
Right.
like, can
Right.
y'all check me in too? Because I think
Mhm.
I'm having a heart attack. And the
Yeah.
doctor was like, after, tests and all the things. Now,
Mhm.
mind you, we're doing tests for me and tests for Kayla.
And
We're both
her.
getting x-rays. We're both getting ultrasounds. We are both in this high stress environment in the moment.
Right.
There's
Right.
a crazy dude in the ER, and
Mm.
I'm like, get over on this side because if
Mhm.
he say something, if he make a move, mommy gonna have to launch off this chair. And
Right.
yes,
Right.
so I need you to be already on this side, right? Because I don't have time to move your
Oh my
legs. So come
goodness.
on over here,
Yes.
right? So I'm still in protection mode. I'm still in
Right.
parent
You're
mode.
still
I'm
on.
still in
Right. Right.
mommy mode all the
Mm-hmm.
time while thinking I'm having a heart attack.
The
Thank
heart
God
attack.
the doctor was
Right.
like, listen, it's stress.
Right.
And he was like, can I take you off of work? I'm an entrepreneur. No, you can't.
Yeah.
You can't
Yeah.
take me off of work. Right.
Right.
Um,
Right.
and so when we have a situation like this where as the custodial parent, I am
Mm-hmm.
on all
All
the
the time.
time,
All the
even when she
time.
goes with her dad. Because if
You're
she
still
gets sick, they call
right.
me. If she gets, you know what I'm saying? If something happens,
Right.
like he gets to clock out. I don't get to clock
Yeah.
out.
Yeah. Yeah. And so speaking to that, so like the non-custodial parent has that mental downtime.
Right.
Um, there has the ability and the options to reset and restore,
Yes.
where the custodial parent doesn't have that option. And when the option does present itself, more times than not, is what you just shared. The doctor took them off of work. It wasn't like they voluntarily did it. No, their body basically was yelling at them, no,
Yeah.
ma'am, no, sir, we cannot do this anymore.
Yeah.
We need a break. And there's a difference between a vacation break and a get well break. There's it's totally different.
Yeah.
So the self-care is can easily be very minimum to nothing at all,
Yeah.
and kind of like patching yourself, or as a non-custodial, excuse me, as the custodial parent, patching yourself up along the way. Band-aid here, band-aid here, band-aid there. You went to ER, you did what you're supposed to do by way of the fact that Taylor needed to go to. The brain was able to process enough to like, hey, I'm here, so I might as well get checked too. You know what I mean? And so what needed to be done, your reality, your family dynamic, your
Mhm.
responsibilities was not conducive. And there's
At all.
many individuals, moms, dad, who are single parents or custodial parents, who can relate to that,
Mhm.
and don't have, or either don't have or have exhausted, all of their resources, not necessarily in a negative way, but just the fact like, girl, it's a lot.
Right. And I
Or
know somebody's thinking like, well, why didn't you just call her dad? Because if we just being honest, it doesn't work like that all the time, right? We had a
exactly.
conversation about that where he was just like, some things are more important. And I was like, if it's important enough for me to stop working, it's important enough for you to just come get her. Yes, there's a 50-mile drive, but if you're saying, hey, she needs to go to the doctor and basically like calling me negligent about not stopping working at that time, then just come get her.
And then there's also the aspect where it's like you could be saying, "I'm taking to the hospital," and Daddy is saying, "I'll meet you there." So it's not about a
Yeah.
you take her, you don't take her, or no. It's like you guys are both, mom and dad are both parents,
But most
and
most people are in a situation where the other parent is like, call me and let me know
right.
what it is. Right.
Exactly. But
That and
hence the
that
reason
don't
why
work.
I said what I said, because it's not about who took the child or who took the children and they're there. It's still the responsibility of both parents to
Yeah.
be present. So it can also be like, okay, I can't get there until an hour, but I'm on my way. Like I'm still coming. It's still my responsibility, and I'm still aware that it is my responsibility, and I'm going to show up.
And relieve some of the stress, right? But we
Right.
ain't even focused on a non-custodial parent right now. We
Right.
focus on
So, but just
because
in
I
general, we,
because
we
yeah,
digress. But
like
so,
yeah, I
but
think I'm
speaking
a
to
little
that
triggered.
aspect, so speaking to that aspect of, yes, as the custodial parents, yes, we know self-care, and yes, we know we need to go to sleep, and yes, we know we need to, you know, eat 3 meals a day, and yes, we know we get steps, and yes, we know we get water,
Yeah, but it don't always
and
work.
and but it doesn't always work that way. So I am always one for what's realistic. What's
Mhm.
realistic is one week you may have 30 minutes, the next week you may have half a day, the following week you may not have nothing at all. The end of the month, you just may be at a place where I need the day, right?
Right.
And so within that, it's like, okay, within your 5 minutes, and I won't say I'm pretty sure. Many people may can agree or understand where as a parent, and you've had your day and you pull up in the driveway and you just sit there.
Yeah.
You ain't in no rush to take yourself up in the house. You just sit there
And it's so
because
therapeutic.
it's quiet, right? And but it's also that part of it's quiet, but it's also you're trying to shift your brain into how you need to function and what you need to be within your household.
Right.
And the key word is trying. It doesn't mean that you're doing it, but it's like there is that acknowledgement, like, all right, I need a minute
Mm-hmm.
before I walk up in this house. I'm trying not to cuss nobody out. We gonna have a good day. You know how we used to talk to ourselves, and so, but that in itself also
Yeah.
can be self-care. You have to be realistic and adjust accordingly. Um, if you are one who likes to walk, or you find calm in walking, or you find a good outlet in exercising,
Yeah.
or a good outlet with cleaning. Everybody has their own things, that's outlet.
And some for some people, it's just I just need to sit here and watch this TV and have some mindless activity.
Right, right. Or watching the reality shows, or watching the show, or whatever the case may be. I would say make it a point to carve out time, not specific to the day,
Mm.
specific to the week. So twice this week, give yourself 30 minutes. And that 30 minutes is whenever it presents itself.
30 minutes each time or 30 minutes total?
No, 30, I'm just saying hypothetically, because sometimes like I say, give yourself 30 minutes, give yourself 10 minutes, give yourself an hour,
Yeah.
give yourself 3 hours. But whenever it presents itself in that way, but if you don't have three, you have 45. You better take the 45. You know what I mean? So being aware that, okay, within my
Sounded a
day,
little aggressive there. Yeah. You better take the 45.
right, right. Take your break. But within your day and what your options are, you have to be realistic, be aware of, okay, this is my time in this block of time.
Right.
And sometimes it may be 5 minutes, but then it's not always 5 minutes. We do have, or for the custodial parents, there are times where you do have more time for yourself, not consistent time, not nothing that you can consistently schedule, but being aware of the time is helpful.
Yeah.
Also, going to therapy. I know we've been saying that word a lot, but when we are human, you are human. You
And
are
can I
not
say for
expected. Oh, go
the
ahead.
African Americans who are listening, who are
Yes.
100% against therapy, because
Mm-hmm.
for years, I'm not gonna say centuries, but for decades, therapy has represented a mental disconnect. Like therapy has represented, like you need help, you don't have the ability to function.
You don't have the ability,
Therapy
right?
has been a bad word for us. And it's like, oh, now you're going to be medicated. You're going to be walking around like a zombie. Therapy does not have to include medications.
Correct.
Therapy can be the conversations that keep you from having to have medications.
Right, right. Exactly.
And I
Exactly.
had to address that because I know as a community, we have such an apathy for it because of what it meant. And for a long time, it was a price point thing. It was like, that is for spoiled rich ladies that live, I'm in LA, so north of Olympic, west of La
Mm-hmm.
Cienega, right? That, like,
Right, right,
those of
right,
us
right,
who live
right.
in the harsher area, a hood area, whatever you want to call
Mm-hmm.
it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it was like, we can't afford no therapy. That's not for us. That's for women who don't
Yeah.
have real complaints in their lives. And you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
reality is,
I would say, or the latter, in
yeah,
regards to where you didn't have a choice. So your experience, whether that was you personally or someone that you knew or within your family, where you were told to go.
right.
So, and that's not this.
It's
and
not.
and and with research, but also with access research, in the sense that we're human and we all go through things and we all need an outlet at some point in our life. I don't care who you are or what race you are, but
Mhm.
also resources. There are a lot of more resources now that are accessible
Yeah.
to many, many people. There's always going to be an individual who it doesn't necessarily apply to, or that person may not necessarily have access in that way, but there's something of a level of support. There's also there's group therapy, within your, I want to say, well, you can look into within your local county services, or like city county services, or
Mhm.
recreational facilities. There are support groups. There's so many support groups, and typically support groups are typically free or very, very minimal in whatever fees they have associated with it. That is a form of mental health.
Yes.
Being able to one see, even though you know that you're not the only one, but being sitting next to someone else who is experiencing a very similar situation is different. You know what I mean? So as the sharing is happening, the level of understanding is happening as well. You know what I mean? And there's the ability where someone could speak to something specific on what you're experiencing, and the same for you for someone else. So getting that support that you need, scheduling it, making time for it means that it has to be scheduled. Sometimes you'll be able to go, sometimes you may not, because parenting is parenting. However, something is better than nothing.
Yeah.
And you have to make efforts to include you. In this essence, yes, you are putting yourself first in regards to your wellness, not because you out and about, not because you clubbing, not no. This is in regards to your ability to have the proper support and resources for your emotional health,
Yes.
because it's a lot. It's a lot to go through it as an individual. It's a without being a parent, and it's a whole lot more to have to deal with these emotions on top of being a parent.
Girl.
It is like I'm trying to hold on myself, and over here you running amok.
Right.
And mommy or daddy over here trying to be as calm as a cucumber, but you trying and you real roast. And it's like, but that's that. And obviously, like
I
that's
was about
not
to
fair to.
bring up the generation and the parents we had. And I was like, no, bring it back. Bring it back.
But with that, that doesn't make it okay or excuse it or justify how you're emotionally reacting to your child,
Yes.
because you're being negligent, not because you're necessarily choosing, but at the end of the day, that's what it is. You're being negligent to what you need as far as taking care of yourself. And it's not a one-time thing, it's a consistent thing. So therapy may or may not be weekly, maybe it's once a month. Maybe you're going to your support group. Maybe you having you're meeting up with your girls, or you're meeting with your boys, and that's every other month. You need to have something that pours into you or back into your cup, so that you can be replenished and refreshed. As being humans in general, we're not one faceted. We are
And we gotta come
emotional
back and deal
beings.
with it all over again the
Right,
very
we are
next day, the very
emotional
next week. So you gotta
beings.
replenish.
Right. So the hobbies, the interest, the going to your doctor's appointments, right? Keeping all your physical aspect benefits. There you go. The aspects, all of them appointments, keeping those for you, scheduling them and keeping them. Socially, and granted that can look different in regards to the age of your children and the type of support that you have,
Right.
but there is room to adjust and schedule accordingly.
Yeah.
So
And we have to
keep
make that
all
room.
those things.
And
Yeah,
that's
I would
not
say
easy.
correct. And it's not easy. You may have where you have once a quarter, and you be waiting for that quarter to happen. Okay. But it's just like you're making it a point for you to have an outlet. Granted, once every 3 months is not ideal. It is not, I won't even say it's not going to do nothing, but something is better than nothing. However, I'm like, everybody got 5 minutes. It could be you getting to work early to allow you to have 15 minutes.
Yeah. And that is as difficult as it is. And I'm gonna say this to the ladies, because typically we are the custodial parents.
Typically, yeah.
If you got to get a network of other moms
Mm-hmm.
who understand, like, for instance, recently I was just like, I'm operating from a space of overwhelm. This is not healthy. I don't feel like I'm having a heart attack. I don't feel like I'm having a stroke, but I do feel like I need to just cry. And one of my girlfriends, I was sharing with her, and she ended up getting a call. She said, listen, this is a work call. I will call you right back. And I was like, okay, and then she texts me maybe an hour or two later, and she says, I'm on my way. Do you want me to pick you up anything? And I was like, no. I'm okay. I don't need you to come, because it's a 3-hour drive for her.
Mm-hmm.
This is a work day, and she got to drive to work tomorrow. Like
Mm-hmm.
totally opposite direction. I don't want you to do that. But it's the fact that she was willing that absolutely touched my heart. It was the fact that she was just like, listen, like, I don't care what the distance is. I care
Right. I
whether
wish.
or not
Right.
you are in a space. Are you safe for you? Are
Right.
you safe for your daughter?
Right.
Meaning, not like, am I physically a danger? No.
Right.
Just
Right. Right.
if Kayla comes in and you know she burps, are you gonna lose your mind?
Right. Right.
And
Because it be
sometimes
like that, right?
absolutely. And we need
Right.
the space. Now, this particular mom, she'll be like, hey, I'm going to Cabo for the weekend. With who? With just me. Just like, you know what I'm saying? I'm afraid of heights and I have control issues. So airplanes are a double kryptonite for me, right?
Right.
I ain't going. But this week I did feel I was like, I'm about to go to Cabo by myself. I'm gonna get on this airplane by myself and go because I need some
You need
time
it.
for
I would
me.
say you need it. Yes. But I'm gonna say this: when your support shows up for you, accept it.
Yeah, yeah.
Accept it.
Yeah. I
Because
was just thinking
there
about
is
how
seeing
difficult it was for her to make that
right.
adjustment. Like, no.
No, she's fully aware of what she was saying and what she was doing, but she knows what you needed. Okay. Then that's all I'm talking to you. Accept it. Okay. There we
Danielle,
go.
didn't
All
we
right.
talk about you
So
not giving me therapy in front of all these people?
all right. So let's move on to the next one.
Okay. Let's do that.
All right, so then like there's the financial strain,
Yes.
and just assuming that it is a strain because open your front door and you will hear cha-ching because these days it
Not
it's
just
a minimum of $50 just to be outside. Don't be hungry, don't eat gas.
Mhm.
It's a minimum of $50 just going outside these days. So imagine, well, parents, the custodial parent, if there is the absent parent, you are financially responsible for it all or a good portion of it.
Yeah.
And the way the outside is outside in and inflation is inflation in, and the way that these employers, these raises are not raising, and you get what I'm saying. It's not if they're not matching, the
Like a
employers ain't
perception.
matching outside. So along with that stress, our kids always need something
Hmm.
in the schools for whatever reason, always trying to have an event, so is that's not free.
Yeah.
So and I'm about to get triggered, but and then your kids are always hungry, right? Anyways, you get my point,
Wanting to eat
okay?
3 times a day.
Right. And then when they leave outside, we already opened the door, that's $50. Now you hungry again, and you had a snack. And if you was hungry, you should have ate the meal. But anyways,
Come back.
I digress. The point is, I'm trying to bring you back. The point is funding your children, because that's what it is at this point. Funding their livelihood, and even just
Yeah.
trying to provide them with one, the bare necessities, but two, like activities, keeping them involved, you know, even when they're younger, but as they get older, the grooming, the haircuts, the sports, the
Yeah.
hair appointments, the shoes that they keep growing out of. They're growing children, so and it don't cost $20. I don't think nothing costs $20 anymore. So there is that consistent, you know, financial loom, if you will, and as a parent, it's like you're working, but then it's like you are aware, or I'll say there is an aspect where a parent or the custodial parent is aware that I know I need to be there, but I need to work to make the money. So I can't open the door to a
Yeah.
house,
It's too
you
much.
know,
Yeah.
so it's the ebbs and flows and trying to balance that. There is no balance. And so there's constant stress, related to the finances. Um, and I'm not being funny, but this day and age, all of us can go for a free meal on a weekly. That should be something. We should be offered weekly free meals, no matter how much money you make. But
Yeah.
within that, there are food banks, there's community services and support and resources that are available. School is about to start for a lot of people. A lot of nonprofits are providing school supplies. Um, I want to say, but there's so many different ones. I would say to like Google, in regards to what are some things that can be financially alleviated, if you will,
Right.
given that what my kids may need, and it may be a back to school event, within the county or the city that you live in, where school products or school supplies are being offered. And granted, yes, that does make it can hit your ego, because you may not be able to provide in the way that you would like for your kids. But at this point, it's like, are your kids getting what they need?
Right. And are you getting what you need?
And
And
I was just
for
about
help,
to say that, right,
asking for help is not a failure move, as much as
right,
people try to make us feel that way.
right. It's a
Asking for
being
help is
resourceful.
exactly, exactly. And for some of us, even the non-custodial parent, it's like, well, if they were me, I wouldn't ask you for nothing because they with me. Well, great. Congratulations on feeling like
But
you
that's not the
should just be Superman or Superwoman, whatever the case. But at the end of the day, as a custodial parent, I'll tell you, y'all have heard me say this before. The same meat I was paying $11 for is now $25, and it's less in the package, right?
right.
So as a parent, I have to like, do I go back for an increased child support, which will cause increased animosity, intensity, right? Like,
Mhm.
and all this tension. Do I go, oh well, like my kid needs this, or do I just deal, which adds more stress to me?
Right,
It's none of it is a win-win, but something has to
right,
be done at
exactly.
some point. And I think a lot of us are in this space where we're like, it's just not worth it. I'd rather be stressed out than have this. Like this destroys all of my peace. And
Mhm.
sometimes that looks like we gotta go, hey, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and let this piece be destroyed now so that I can have it later. That's a big thing.
Yeah, it's always good. But I get what you're saying. I wouldn't use it destroyed, but I get when you're in it. But that's what it feels like. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But I get what you're saying, because me and words, I'm like destroyed.
Right.
No,
And
but I'm like, but no,
I get it. And I know somebody is listening and they're going, oh my God, here goes a single
yeah,
mom, and I'm not a single mom. I'm a single woman, right? Because her dad and I co-parent. However, that being said, when people see me, or you know what I mean, like the perception is,
right.
um, oh, well, you the one had a baby by him. And you know what I mean? And
Hmm.
you're right. I did, just like you
Hmm.
probably have a baby with someone. And at the
Hmm.
end of the day, sometimes people just don't get along. Sometimes people just have these
Right.
disagreements or whatever the case may be, right? But the judgment that is always on our shoulders as
Hmm.
women, as
Yeah.
we are navigating parenthood, and it doesn't matter what race you are, it's just the
Right.
judgments that we are going through
Right.
for being the parent who stayed, for being the parent who it, you know what I'm saying? Like, and usually when I hear it, it's from a father who is not in the house, right? Let's just put that out there. When we
Yeah.
hear the judgments, it's from a man who literally has absolutely no type of understanding of the stress that goes with it. Because the
Mhm.
single fathers I know are like, man, I hear you.
Right, right, right. Yeah, exactly, exactly.
It's
Um,
like, why are you speaking, sir? You have no idea of what you are speaking of. This is the
right,
grown folk talk.
right, right. But even with that, with sharing that, that causes more stress.
Yeah,
Granted, I'll say that I go even go back to, obviously everybody's emotional threshold is different,
yeah,
but that does and can cause additional stress.
Mm-hmm.
How about you're the mom or you're the dad, whoever the single parent gender is or whatever, and the school is calling, and you took an Uber to work,
Right.
and your child, you come pick up your child. Wait, oh, what happened? Okay, I'll be there in 2 hours. 2 hours. We know the admin talk. Come on, y'all. We know how to
Right.
school people. We know how they talk. And the judgment and the parent is doing the best that they can.
Every day.
They cannot be everywhere all the time. I am not saying that you have a parent who's like, oh, I need to finish this shift and I'll get there when I get there. Or I'm on my way and they show up when school's over. You know what I mean? We're not referencing those parents. We are speaking to the dynamic related to the custodial parent who is doing the best that they can, but sometimes with very, very limited support. Um, or they may have their support system or support group and it's very tight knit. So it's
Right.
only a handful of people, and having an understanding that even though we can, but there's that hesitation like, okay, this person already does this for me on a weekly basis. I don't want to ask something else of this person, even though if I do ask, I know that they will do it. However, they are not my child's parent. You know what I mean? So, and it's not their responsibility. I'm grateful and thankful that they are open to being consistent and reliable from me, but as well as my child, but that's not their responsibility.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take away from the single parent, the custodial parent, thoughts going to because they have another parent. You know what I mean? And that other parent, it's really their responsibility. It's our shared responsibility, but it's their responsibility
Right.
to be like, okay, I'll say this one time I had a parent say that. This one time I'll do it.
Right.
Whatever, dude. Just come on, okay? But so it's a constant. It makes me think of those exercising shows where all these obstacle courses and you jumping over stuff, diving on the ground, getting hit with them little padded things. But it's a constant mental Tetris, if you will, of all the things. And then when you add the societal component, and societal could be work, societal could be your kid's school, societal could be, you know, um, family, friends. It is that perspective and that judgment, or that perception of what you should be doing. It causes emotional distress.
Right.
Whether it impacts you greatly or minimal, there's impact. Um, so with that, I mean, not to say with me going to make a suggestion doesn't mean it's gonna be like, oh, I feel great now. No, no, no. Sometimes we have to remember, encourage yourself. Okay. Sometimes we have to speak to ourselves kindly. Because a lot of times we don't. We demand of ourselves. But also that aligns with the aspect of you're a parent. So
Mhm.
you have to tend to certain things. You have to show up and do. So taking time to speak kindly to yourself is and can be a form of checking in with yourself.
Yeah.
So an example of that is, I know you're tired. Yes, I'm speaking in third person for anybody yes, I know you're tired, but you're doing a good job.
Yes. Yes.
And you may expect you might find yourself tearing up because you're like, sis, I need a nap, okay? But because and then you have to keep going, right? But speak kind to yourself, and with speaking kind, acknowledge what you do.
Mm-hmm.
I took the
You do a
tougher
lot.
route. I took the tougher decision for my kids.
Mm-hmm.
Because if it was up to me, it would be a shared responsibility, right? So, but I took, even though, because, and let's say this, some people may feel that, because I had no choice. And granted, the choice isn't healthy. Like you can choose to not be present, but I'm glad that you chose to be that parent, to take the additional load, take the additional responsibilities with that awareness of you knew it wasn't going to be easy, but yet
Yeah.
you stepped up to the plate.
And as we have taken on the additional load, knowing that wasn't going to be easy, give yourself grace in not understanding how difficult it was going to be. We
Yes.
know going to college is going to be
Yes.
difficult, but
Right.
like, yeah, some of them college exams, that's where I had my first 500 question test. Man, why are you testing on the whole damn book? Like,
Right. It sounds like you need to take the class
chapter.
over because evidently you got too many questions, right?
Right.
So right. you done lost the understanding of what
Listen,
you're
this
teaching.
instructor, if
But
this
yeah.
test was 500 questions, baby, listen, I'm about to drop this class because I'm not gonna try. Oh, it
Right.
was a situation. Like literally, this test was like 4 sessions. So that being
Yeah.
said,
But yeah.
you give yourself some grace in that
Yeah.
you may not have known how difficult it was gonna be, but you were up for the challenge. And when it gets thick, you survived 100% of your bad days, which means
Yeah.
that you are not a quitter, which means that you have pushed yourself and you have found new strength and all of these things, right? Whatever that looked like for you. For me, it's prayer. For me, it's a nap. For me, it's a good cry.
Yeah.
Whatever it is for you, take that
Yeah.
time to do it.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So
Like,
say
yeah, I guess I'm getting therapy anyway. No, I'm just kidding.
so let's talk about the challenges then of just trying to or attempt to co-parent. You know, you being the parent who, or you being the custodial parent, more times than not being in the place and space of doing the best they can to trying to communicate with the
Right.
parent who is not active, in their children's life. What do you do with that? Or the non-custodial parent who pops up when they choose to pop up and make
Right.
demands. Oh, I need to see my child, and and it's like with all of that, either way it goes, there has to be clear boundaries. And don't get it confused with this my child and you don't show up anyway and blah 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 blah. That's not clear
Right.
boundaries. That's
Right.
emotional reactivity, and you need to
Right.
address it. Okay.
Now saying,
As
hey, you can't come over here at 7 in the morning. That's a clear boundary. Like,
right.
let's be clear about what times
Right.
my home is open to you. Because
Or if he's open at all, hold on, why are we gotta meet at the house? But anyways, I'm just saying, go ahead. Yes. I'm listening.
okay.
I'm
But
listening.
like you
Like
coming
that's a
over at
boundary.
6 and 7 in the morning, talk about I want to see my child who is asleep. No.
Yeah.
You wanting to
Yeah.
come over at 10, 11 o'clock at night, talking about I want to see
Night.
my child who is asleep. No, like we're not going to
And even if they're
disturb my
not
home.
asleep.
Right. We
Right.
just not going to disturb my home.
Right.
Like
Right.
I don't have people in and out my house at these hours. That do include you. It's like let's be mindful of what
Yeah.
your goal is, your ultimate their ultimate goal is. Because sometimes people will take advantage. Like, oh, I want to see
Yeah.
my daughter, and it's 10 o'clock at night, and you like, okay, now I done spent 30 minutes of you trying to sleep with me. We're not doing that either, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Right.
establishing those boundaries is okay. Someone saying, oh,
No, it's needed.
right. Rephrase. It is needed. We did a letter or a post. We read about a post, and the father was like, "Send my baby to me." No, this is a boundary of mine. If you're gonna meet with her, you're gonna meet with her in my city, in my state, where you know what I'm saying, like versus me sending her to you.
Yeah.
We're not doing that either because this is
Yeah.
a boundary of
Right.
mine. And if you
Yeah.
wanted to be in on the deciding of the boundaries, then you should have been there from the beginning.
Yeah. There has to be some consistency
Yes.
of
Otherwise, we're
involvement,
gonna let the state.
not dictating on what you feel that you should have by way of title of being a parent. And it's
Absolutely.
like, no. So with experiencing difficulty with communicating, difficulty with sharing responsibilities, with it will falls under the parenting aspect in itself, think of what boundaries do you need to clearly communicate, and or what, because that wouldn't even be a boundary. So I'm trying to think of the right, what boundary that you feel that you have that you set in place that is not in the best interest of your child. It's in the best interest of you.
Right.
So
That
keep
could be work
those.
schedule stuff, that you
Let's
don't
say
feel like
you
working around.
you working up you picked up an extra shift that fell on the weekend or the day visit you're supposed to have with your child.
Right.
That's not okay.
And you're like, oh, well, I had to work. I gotta pay
Right.
my bills. Well, okay, but this is the agreed time, and now you go
Right.
demand time that I
Somewhere
already have
else.
something planned, right?
Exactly. It comes down to the communication. And I don't want you to think just because you communicate, everybody's like, oh, okay. No, let's be real. But there is that ongoing, consistent communication that needs to happen. There is that understanding that what you agree to, if there is an agreement as far as visiting or whatever the case may be, that there is a likely chance that there's other things that were scheduled around that happening.
Right.
So you not showing up has a domino effect.
Right.
You just popping up for the sake of the title of parent has a domino effect. So having clear boundaries, once again, communicating, not he know, she know. No, but did you tell them? Is that how they know?
Right.
Being clear in communicating. And we have previous shows on that, but being clear on what your expectation is. But therapist Danielle is saying in regards to the boundary that you feel that you're setting, making sure it is in the best interest of your child and not what you want for emotional sake for yourself. Okay.
And don't be afraid to get a professional mediator.
Yes,
Not
yes.
your
Because
friend.
you're right, you're right.
Okay,
Actually,
not your friend.
right,
A
right. Not
professional
your
mediator
friend.
who is not
Mhm.
emotionally tied to it,
Exactly.
who is
Hmm.
not on your side. Your ride or die is gonna be your ride or die. I don't care how much. Like I've been in
Right.
that situation, which is why I don't do it anymore. Because I was like, oh no, I can be partial. And then I'm like, yeah, we gonna make this food wrong regardless, right? I got you, girl. I got you. Like, no, don't do
Right,
that. Like that don't make
right,
sense.
right. Hmm.
And then
Right.
remembering that, this is all for the betterment of your child and maintaining a healthy, emotionally well-being. Um, the impact, and I always go back to this, but the impact of having an absent parent on the child is not something that within those first 10, 15, 20 years. Sometimes that impact shows up the same way it's showing up in an absent parent, where they just don't show up for their kid. And they still
Yeah,
steady blaming their parents. You're 30. It's time to figure it out. But sometimes they don't have the ability to.
yeah,
That
yeah,
capability is not always strong. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And but very, very true, and where I work with some parents where one child is very apparent that they're having a hard time, and the other children are quote unquote okay, but then they
Mhm.
become adults, right? And then now they start having all these issues, and they're with these people who are unhealthy. And it's like quiet doesn't mean okay, you know.
At all.
So or portraying to be okay. They were themselves. And let me say this to the back because I'm pointing out various things, but I also want you to know as parent, just because we are the parent of our children does not mean that we can read their minds.
But
So if there isn't anything that occurred that was different or out of the norm for your child, you don't necessarily default supposed to know that. However, you can take certain actions if this has been a major change or shift in their lives, having
Mhm.
them check in and talk with a therapist is okay. And that therapist can say, at this moment, at this time, with what your son or your daughter is experiencing or showing, it's normal, and may put it back on. I won't say put it back on you. May encourage you to start having those conversations so that home can be the safe space for
Yeah.
them to be able to talk. So, with that being said, it goes to, as mom, as dad, as the custodial parent, how am I dealing with my own feelings? Am I
Yeah.
projecting what I feel onto my kids? Whether that's intentional or not, is it happening? And that is something you have to be mindful of every single day, okay? Because when you have a non-active parent, they're non-active more times than not. So you just need to be aware of what's emotional and mental space that you are in. And we have, because we share children, right?
Right.
We took part in creating the child, there's going to be aspects of your child that's going to remind you of their father or their mother. That can be triggering.
Yeah.
That can be very triggering. And so if you have not taken it a point to get the emotional support that you need for yourself, it's going to come out, and it's going to impact your children, and it's going to impact your relationship with your children or with your daughter or with your son. It's going to come out. You can only hold it in and stuff it for so long. It's going to start seeping out.
Yeah.
Um,
You got to do better. Just we have to do better. As hard
in
as
the
it,
same,
we have to do better.
right. I'm about to say, in the same way that you technically didn't have a choice in regards to parenting, as a single parent, um, and it's, even though it was going to be hard, is the same way that you should be aware of taking on the responsibility of yourself and your own emotions.
Yeah.
It's going to be difficult and it's going to be rough, if you will, or it can be challenging, but do it for the sake of allowing you to parent from a healed space.
Yeah. And it's yeah, I'm gonna stop right there. Because
Okay. Yeah,
I was just like, there's no need to elaborate on that. That's fine.
yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
let's see.
Um,
I think that
so
just one more thing.
yeah.
Navigating the legal issues, right?
Yeah.
As it relates to child custody, child support, parental rights, there's always a discomfort that you're going to face, right? No matter what side you're on of it, right? Um,
Right.
but when not, don't wait till it gets too much. From the beginning, have these conversations with the other person. If you cannot come to a consensus, then go ahead and start the legal process so that a judge can help you, right? A judge will
Yeah.
likely assign a mediator first
Yeah,
because
they do.
that's
Typically,
they,
that's
yeah. And that's because they're trying to work it out. It's not because the judge don't want to see you. It's because they got a whole bunch of other cases, but they're trying to help you work it out
right.
amongst yourselves. Okay.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, and before you go to mediation, maybe consulting with your therapist to figure out how to say it, or consulting with a legal firm,
Giving
your
them
lawyer,
counsel.
whatever, to figure out how to say it. How do I address it? How do I bring this up? What paper can I take already so that the mediator can start at this point or this reference point?
Hmm.
But there are legal aid services for people who can't afford their own private attorney.
Yeah.
I like what is it, Legal Shield, I always say, because yeah, I don't know who I'm gonna get, but like I do know that it is the
You're able
lawyer
to get
looking at the
someone.
paperwork and making sure
Hmm.
that things are in order. There are plenty of free legal clinics. Churches have them, colleges have them, right? And
Hmm.
so being able to have a lawyer looking at things and guiding you,
Yeah.
because the lawyer is not going to be as emotional as you.
Right.
They're going to tell you what it is. No,
Right.
this don't work, right?
Hmm.
Be mindful of what can be used against you. I remember my lawyer saying, listen, don't text that man nothing that you don't want blown up on the jumbotron. Right, that's not the
Right.
jumbotron. That but
Right.
on a
What it
screen
feel
in
like,
court
right?
because everybody will see it. So you have to
Hmm.
check your emotions. You have and
Right.
just deal with it um from that perspective. And I mean, there's tons of other things that go into it because people are
Hmm.
trying to reconcile with you and you ain't trying to reconcile with them.
That was
People
it. Right, right.
are trying to hurt
Yeah.
your self-confidence and your ability to move and navigate. They
Hmm.
want to limit your personal time so that they can limit how much time you have with other people.
Right,
Like it's a
right.
bunch of things. And
Yeah,
we could do a whole nother show on just those
right.
topics.
Well,
Um,
right.
but keeping in mind that we are, in fact, individuals
Hmm.
dealing with a bunch of stuff, and we have to be mindful as we navigate that nothing that we're doing is impacting our children negatively, and or at the least amount of negative, right? Because sometimes it's like we gonna have to move. Right. That could be a negative
Hmm.
thing, but it's positive for the family, but it's negative for this one child because you got children, with someone else and they live closer that way. But your child is being taken further away
Remote.
from that
Hmm.
parent. And so then your child is like, well, they see their daddy all the time. I don't see my daddy all the time. Like that could
Hmm.
be
Yeah.
another, but so it's
Yeah.
like, how can we limit the damage that is being done? Can we avoid the damage at all costs, right? Like, or if not at all costs, can we limit it? Um, and can we make the greatest amount of good for the child without it destroying you as a person? And I think that's the fine balance because sometimes we
Yeah.
like I always say it's only a win if Kayla wins. If I win
Yeah.
and she loses, it's still a
Hmm.
loss.
Yeah.
That mindset though has put me in several positions and situations where it's like, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Personally,
because
yeah.
I
Yeah.
am doing this for my child,
Right.
but it is not good for me. It is not healthy for me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
to not do it may not negatively impact her on a level that I think, right? And that's where I go to my friends. Hey, let
Yeah.
me get some advice on this, right? So
Right.
I do this.
Exactly.
Like this is how I
Right.
feel about it. And my
Hmm.
friends are really good at saying, hey, that's your emotions. Hey, that's like you stand, be real to what you feel, but stand on what you know. And what you know is
Yeah.
that this don't work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, you know what? Pull out. Tell him if he wants this, then he has to make that effort. It could be a whole situation. It
Yeah,
could be
it
difficult,
goes back
but
to the boundaries, but sometimes the boundaries need the legalities behind it, you know.
right.
So yes, given the reality of a lot of situations, it does involve legal. Um, and yeah, let's say we're not attorneys, we're not legal counsel, all those things. It's just to put that out there. But yes, but seeking legal counsel, um and I want to say but a lot of people don't. So so when every effort has been made as a way to attempt to make decisions related to visits, related to shared time, because some
Mhm.
people don't like the word visits, related to the responsibility factor of parenting,
Right.
um, there are times where, or a lot of times where there needs to be another component. And that other component is the legal aspect. So, and unfortunately, that just is what it is. The person who you had a child with, and granted, it doesn't take
Hopefully.
away the frustrations. Don't get me wrong. However, it's kind of like those are the moments where I say, remember the whole picture. So now that you're tied to this person for 18 plus years, just know that you guys are living life together, I won't say living, having, experiencing, there you go, you guys are experiencing life together. And now I'm saying as a therapist, you're more than likely going to see some things that you probably didn't even know because of your child and them growing up and them getting older. And it may or may not be triggering certain things in the other parent that they choose to not deal with. But you see the like, what is it? What in the world? Kind of thing. It's like, I knew this, but I didn't know that. So let the legalities do their job. Just let them do their job. Um, yeah, and there also and there's always more, but there are other aspects related to what the custodial parent that's a challenge. There you go. That's a challenge for the
Yeah.
custodial parents. We all, we try to highlight as much as we possibly can. But just keep in mind that you do have the ability to put you on the schedule. Granted, remember I said that time frame. One day it may be a minute. It may be a minute to take. Make sure you took a whole breath and a whole exhale. There you go. Or in the next week, exactly. you may have had time to do that every single day.
Right.
Obviously, more is needed. But the aspect of being mindful of what am I doing to tend to myself daily? What are those things that can be done um, that are just helpful? Doesn't necessarily change the situation, but are just helpful. So speaking kindness to yourself, having once a week where you do a hobby that you enjoy. The various, and I can go on and on and on, but and I gave various examples, but those are the things that you do have control over. And
Mhm.
granted, yes, we would like a break, but is that realistic? You have to go what you have access to. So be realistic in regards to what do I have control over and what more times than not can happen versus not. Enroll with that option. So be gentle with yourself.
Be gentle.
Um,
I like that. Be gentle.
yeah, be gentle with yourself. Give yourself grace. Give yourself a moment. Be aware of not projecting what you're feeling onto your child or out in the room. As I had one mama tell me, I didn't say at her. I just said it in the room. Okay, well, unfortunately, at that time, your child was in the room. So guess what she did? She grabbed
Right.
onto it and held onto it. So here we are now. So, but yeah, so hopefully with what's been talked about, it was helpful to some degree and or opened your eyes, which I hope it more so opened your eyes and brought your awareness and also seeing where you can go, what options that you have
Mhm.
with making sure you're tending to yourself along with this journey of being a single parent.
Yes. Okay. Yay. Thank you all for joining us. This was a lot. Like these last couple of episodes
Yeah,
have
that
been
was a bit
a lot. I
deep.
feel like extremely heavy,
Yeah.
but that's all right. Like we are gonna figure it out and move forward. It's not always easy, but let's go with it anyway. All right. I'm Coach Kiana Shaw, and this is my co-host,
Therapist Danielle.
and we are the Real on Parenting. Talk to you soon.